the very moment they need connection the most. When I first noticed that my cognition was beginning to change, I asked for help. And I was met not with answers, but with assumptions. Assumptions that dismissed my reality, assumptions that delayed my care, and assumptions rooted in stigma, not science. And that path led me to a moment I will never forget. Standing alone in a hospital room, no nurse, while receiving a diagnosis of a neurodegenerative disease from the neurologist on a telehealth call. No support in the room. Only a request to meet again in 3 months, and then silence as he hung up. That is what stigma and false narratives do. They isolate, they delay, they disconnect. And in that moment, I realized something that has stayed with me ever since. I needed to be seen. I needed to be heard. I needed to be validated. And the truth is, this is not just my story. This is the experience of so many individuals living with brain change, navigating systems that were not designed to fully recognize the humanity. These narratives don't come from nowhere. They were built over time, passed down through the generations, shaped by culture, by observation, and by fear of the unknown. There was a time when dementia was not understood as a neurodegenerative disease, but as something else entirely. Losing your mind, going a bit crazy, senility, psychotic behavior, mental illness. Many of us grew up watching loved ones change in ways we didn't understand. They became unfamiliar to us, unrecognizable in their behavior, and without the knowledge we have today, fear filled the gaps. But here's the truth. Dementia is not a moral failing. It is not a curse. It is not a punishment. And it is not simply what happens when you get old. And yet, in many communities, cultural and spiritual beliefs still shape how dementia is understood. Some see it as the result of wrongdoing, others as something supernatural, something to be feared, hidden, and avoided. And these beliefs are deeply rooted in tradition, in faith, and identity. So when we talk about changing the narrative, we're not just challenging ideas. We are challenging systems of belief that have existed for generations. And change in those spaces does not happen through force. It happens through understanding, through patience, through trust. At the same time, we must recognize that progress is not experienced equally. In large cities and high-income countries, conversations around dementia are beginning to shift. More education, more research, more visibility. But I admit, even then, not fast enough. And beyond those spaces, in rural communities, in smaller towns, and in low-income countries, access to care, education, and resources remains limited or completely out of reach. And where there is little access, fear continues to grow stronger. Stigma deepens. Isolation becomes the norm. But there is another layer we don't talk about enough. What happens when those beliefs are not just around us, but within us? When we begin to internalize them. When we start to believe that we should step back, and we should be quiet, and we should isolate ourselves before anyone else does. That kind of isolation doesn't come from the outside. It settles in the mind, and it can be just as powerful, if not more. As someone living with dementia, I have felt the weight of these narratives firsthand. I have lived them not only through my diagnosis, but through my identities as a gay Hispanic man and as a U.S. military veteran. The isolation has been real, deep at times. There have been moments of distance, moments of silence, moments where connection felt out of reach. But I stand here today without blame. I do not blame my family, I do not blame my friends, and I do not blame myself, because blame does not heal. Blame builds walls. It creates division. It turns misunderstanding into conflict, and walls keep us from the very thing we need most: connection, trust, compassion. And this is the heart of what I came here to say. Change is not something we wait for. It is something we create. For years, many of the dementia community have called for a shift in how this condition is understood. But what makes this moment different, what makes this moment powerful, is that we are not just asking for change, we are leading it. We are advocating with our medical teams, we are working alongside researchers, we are sharing our stories with our neighbors across countries, cultures, and languages. We are speaking to leaders and policymakers. We are showing the world that life with dementia is still a life with meaning, with voice, with purpose. And we are doing it without fists, without hate, without division. We are doing it by choosing connection, by choosing to be visible, and by inviting others to truly see us. So today, I invite you to be a part of this change, not in some distant, abstract way, but in the everyday moments that define how we treat one another. Choose to lean in instead of stepping back. Choose conversation instead of silence. Choose presence instead of distance. Ensure that people in front of you are seen, are heard, and are validated. Let us challenge the misconceptions that have held us back for far too long. Let us create communities where people living with dementia are not pushing to the margins, but welcomed, supported, and valued. Let us replace fear with understanding, isolation with connection, stigma with compassion. The path forward will not always be easy, but change rarely is. And yet, it is within our reach in how we think, in how we speak, and in how we choose to show up for one another. Change does not begin somewhere far away. It begins right here, with us, with a decision. So I'll leave you with this. When you encounter someone living with dementia, will you choose distance? Or will you choose connection? Thank you.